Hi everybody, putting the finishing touches on this video right now. I apologize, it's taken me way too long to get this video out. I don't know what happened. I had so many problems and issues and I was getting quite frustrated. I just wanted to scrap the whole project. Well, I finished the project. However, I had many issues, as you'll see if you watch this video. That's why I'm titling it, How Not to Make a Workout Bench. Watch the video and find out why. See you at the end. Hi everybody, welcome back to the shop. So today's project, I'm going to make a workout bench. I tore down an old futon frame which was made out of oak, so a perfect material for building this bench. Now I'm loosely basing the design off of Starting Strength's bench that they produce. His bench is about 10 inches wide, 48 inches long, and an overall height of 17 inches. So I'm just using his as a guide. Mine's going to be somewhere in that neighborhood, but won't probably be the exact same measurements as his. So I've got all my boards lined up exactly the way I want them to be. There's some seams. I was trying to eliminate seams as much as possible. And then I ran into one major issue. Turned out some of these boards are not all the same thickness. They're about a 1/16 of an inch off in some cases. So I had to get very creative on positioning boards so that everything looked right, but the right thicknesses were matched end to end. Now I understand if I had a thickness planer, this wouldn't be an issue. I don't. I do have a jointer, but I'm not going to try to flatten these boards on that. So, I've got everything figured out. Time to trim one side or one edge. Then we can go to the table saw and I can get them down to their final height, thickness, however you want to put it. Then we can glue it together. So let's get cutting. As I'm milling these boards, I make sure to put them back in their original position. Then that way, once I have them at their final height, I will mark this correctly and ensuring that these stay in their correct orientation. Now the process is going to be where to cut to try to not include some of the nails that still remain in these boards. I was doing my best to remove what I could, and then also hoping to cut these down to a size that will also eliminate the nail. Now in many of these cases, because the nail came in at an angle, I'm not going to be able to make the boards as big as I want, but it looks like 2 inches will be sufficient to remove majority of the nails. Some may still be included. I made a point to put these back in the order I took them out of as I was milling them so they wouldn't be out of order. Well, I just spent what seemed like an hour rearranging this like some sort of Tetris game to get the seams exactly where I wanted them. So as you can see, I drew 3 reference lines. Each one of these corresponds to one of the seams is, making sure that when I do this glue up, they all line up perpendicular to each other, or parallel to each other. Now that we've got all of the layout where we want it, I've made reference marks everywhere, so I'll make sure not to get them out of arrangement when I do the glue up. However, I'm going to have to take this all apart now as everybody's fun time of sanding. And not so much the top, that's for the last, but on a lot of these boards on the sides, at least one side, some of them too, they were painted. So now we got to go through and sand all of the boards clean so we have a nice fresh glue surface. Well, that glue up did not exactly go very smoothly. I made such a point to draw these lines so I had alignment, and then I carefully took all the boards, put them down on the ground in the exact same arrangement as I wanted the final outcome to be. Well, what ended up happening is I start grabbing the boards off of the ground. I grabbed them out of the wrong order. So I get this whole thing put together. I get about halfway through and I realize something was not right, that my pieces were in the wrong spot. So then I'm scrambling to rip it back apart while the glue is trying to set and then put it back together correctly. Needless to say, the glue up was horrible. It's gonna look okay, but it's not where I wanted it to be. And we'll just see what happens. Okay, so I've got the bulk of the sanding done. I've sanded both sides, and then I decided which side I wanted to be the top. So this is going to be the top. So I've also taken the liberty of starting to fill any kind of voids that I just couldn't live with. And I'm going to need to do it again. I've gone over and sanded some of that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the ends to their final length, and then maybe even consider chamfering or rounding over the edges. They're very sharp right now, and it's going to splinter very easily if I'm not careful. So let's take care of that, and then we'll go back to our final sanding and then put on a finish. Now, I'm not going to put a clear finish on this per se. I'm going to put oil, probably some Danish oil, and then probably follow it with some of my beeswax mineral oil as a top coat. And I figured I'd give one reason why I'm going to do that is simply because of what this is going to be used for. When you're laying on something like this, yeah, you would kind of want the moisture protection because you're going to be sweaty. However, what I found is if you've ever sat on a chair, maybe it's just me, but if you're really hot and you sometimes sit on a shellacked or any kind of film finished piece of furniture and it's hot and you sit there long enough, when you get up, you kind of stick to it. And I've had my jeans stick pretty good to stuff sometimes. It's almost like you're melting the finish. So I don't want that to happen when I'm working out on a bench. Now that I got the top dialed in the way I like it, it's time to move on to the base. Now this whole project, I've sort of been making it up as I go. I had the original outline or guideline to go by. However, I'm letting each step dictate the next step. So we got the top done. So based on that, now I'm designing the base. Now the last thing is you can do this entire base with just one 4x4. So that's what we're going to do. Now we're ready to do the half laps. This is the part I've been dreading the most because this is where where precision is required. Now I spent a great deal of time getting grain orientation, figuring out what's top, what's bottom. Also, there's a major defect in this wood that I don't know how I didn't see. However, I'm going to be able to cut away most of it in most cases. So my theory is, since I'm not exactly an expert on half laps, I've done it in construction type projects, but you don't really care if the tongue is a little bit, the half laps are perfectly equal. You know, it doesn't really matter. In this case, I want it nice and smooth. So my theory is measure the widest board, get a true exact measurement, and divide that in half. And that should be the height we need to make the blade. The other idea I'm thinking of doing is whatever there's a connecting board, say this is the main support, and I'll have one of the legs that connects to it. I'll cut both of those slots at the same time so then I could fit it together and get an immediate proof of concept there. Since some of these boards I've noticed aren't all exactly the same thicknesses, so by doing the two connecting parts, making sure they fit perfect, then all of my joints should be the same exact smooth height. So let's see if that works. Okay, now that was a nightmare. All right, let's flip it over and I'll show you just how badly twisted this thing is. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Well, yeah, so it's pretty bad. It's about 1/4 of an inch off. I could grind both ends 1/8 of an inch and that should do it. Well, actually, that doesn't feel too bad. Whoops, wait, hold on. It didn't seem to wobble at all. And hopefully once I'd have weight pushing me down, maybe it won't be an issue. So I'm going to take this in the house, mess around with it for a little bit, and I'll come back out and do the final finish, or shape the bottom of the feet, make it dead flat. Okay, I went ahead and went in the house and tested it all out, and actually it's working just fine. In the house, on soft padded floor, it'd be just fine. So we'll go ahead and do the finish now. Originally I was just going to oil the whole thing, but I think I'm going to go ahead and treat the legs with stain, a nice dark stain, and then I'll continue with the oil on the top. Eight, 99, 100. Whew, new personal best. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I finished the bench. It works just fine. As I was talking about before, the problem with this bench is this top is nice and heavy, but with this pine base, it's a little top heavy. Yet it won't fall over, or it at least hasn't. I've been able to even do like dips off the edge of it. Without any problem. But like I mentioned, it is top heavy. So as soon as I can, I'm going to get steel. We'll make a proper base, and then this thing will be rock solid. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, you take care.